Hi, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. In today's episode, we're speaking with Martin Yan, a renowned Chinese-American chef, cookbook author, chefpreneur, and host of the award-winning PBS-TV cooking show, Yan Can Cook. Chef Yan has hosted over 1,500 episodes over the past 4 decades that have been broadcast in over 50 countries. He has written over 24 cookbooks and founded the Yan Can International Cooking School in San Francisco. Join us today as we chat with Chef Yan about how he uses food to build community and promote cultural diversity, and what it takes to turn a small cooking school into a daytime Emmy and James Beard Award-winning show. Chef, welcome. Thank you so much for being here this morning. How are you?
My pleasure. It's been a long time.
It's been too long. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Probably a couple of years ago at the National Restaurant Association show that I last saw you. You look phenomenal. You look great.
I feel good.
You feel good?
Yeah. Always reinventing myself, just like anything else.
Yes, you
when
are.
it's a crisis, it's always opportunity. So, I'm honored to share my culinary journey, my life journey with you and your students and our colleagues.
I love it, Chef. And before we even get started, I'm so honored that you're here. We've known each other a long time. And one of my prized possessions, among others, I have to read. And this was this book, I think, was published in the 90s. And so what you said was to Chef Kirk, Food and Passion for Life. Food and Passion for Life. Absolutely love it. How's the family, by the way?
They're doing well. We just have our third shot, so everything is going well. Very good.
Great. You know, not too long ago, or several times, you said that when it comes to cooking, not because you love to cook that you worked in the kitchen, but that you had no choice. So I'm taking you back all the way to China when you were growing up. How were you first introduced to the kitchen? This is so long before you became a celebrity on television. And what made you decide to become a professional chef?
Well, make the long story short. Before I was born, my father actually ran a small, very successful 60-seat restaurant in the heart of Guangzhou, China, where I was born. My mother actually ran and owned a grocery store about a block away. So when I was a little kid, I would run around between the grocery store, which I known all the soy sauce, hoisin sauce, and black bean sauce, and tofu, and fermented bean curd. And then dinner time, I would go to my father's restaurant. So I started basically from the ground up. When I was a little kid, I crawl around and I pick up all these left droppings of all the food on the floor. So I have a taste of good food. But anyway, this is the first introduction that I have with food actually, in the true sense. But in those days, the communists took over the business. So my father and my mother actually end up working for the state, for the city, instead of owning their business. So life is pretty tough. We grew up in a very, very turbulent time in modern Chinese history. As a kid, most of us actually go to bed hungry, and because everything was a ration. Each month, we only have 4 ounces of oil and 2 pounds of meat for a whole month. Meat means pork, no chicken, no beef, no seafood, nothing, just 2 pounds. So you basically, a quarter of a cup of oil, you have to spread it out for the whole month. So my parents always, because they end up, instead of owning a restaurant, they end up working. So food was very precious. So anything that you can find, anything you eat, anything you can eat and maintain your life and your health, you got to eat it. So it has been very, very tough.
And did you have siblings growing up as well?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. Eventually, he also turned to be a chef. Then when I was 13, I left China. My father passed away when I was about 5 or 6 years old. So we left China and I went to Hong Kong and stayed with a distant uncle when I went to high school. I actually worked in the restaurant after school, on weekends, and also in the summer. So basically, I have the opportunity to practice on cutting vegetable, fillet fish, and boning a chicken. And that's why I always joke with people, I can bone a chicken in 18, 20 seconds.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So the area where you grew up is was one of the largest cities in the region, right? And I believe the birthplace of Cantonese cuisine, right? And
yes, yeah.
And my understanding of that cuisine is what I love is the sweet sauces, right? With the vegetables and the pork.
A lot
and
of stir fry.
A lot of stir fry. Yeah. How did the tradition? So you left when you were 13. You're in Hong Kong. How did the traditions of the area where you grew up and your memories influence who you became down the road? How did it influence your culinary journey?
Well, once I went to Hong Kong, I've decided, I was so hungry when I was in China. So to be able to feed myself, the best thing is to be close to the kitchen. So I figure out if I ever grow up and have an opportunity, I would definitely spend my whole life around food, whether working with food or working in a restaurant. This is the beginning of my desire to become a chef, because I want to be close to the food. I don't go hungry anymore, because when I was growing up, I was hungry, right? Canton is in the southern part of China. The Pearl River Delta is very fertile. Is only 1 or 2 seasons. There's no winter. There's no snow, so it's very fertile. And all the delta, just like the Louisiana Delta, the Mississippi Delta, the San Joaquin Delta, and a lot of these delta are very fertile. So a lot of produce, a lot of things. So Cantonese food focus on freshness, season, eat with the season, eat with the freshness. This is the essence of Cantonese cuisine. Unlike other part of northern China or western part of China, which is the desert, or Tibet, which is very cold, there's only 1 season, 1 crop. In southern China, in Guangzhou area, 3 crops, 4 crops. So we were very lucky, just like California, very productive agricultural land. So the Cantonese cuisine, in the very beginning, most of the Chinese restaurant in the US is Cantonese cuisine, because most of these immigrants are from southern China. They first came to build the railroad, to work in the gold mine, and later on they opened the laundromat and then restaurants. So most of these people, they came from southern China.
Were there, so your father passed away at a young age, but obviously there was an influence from both your mother and your father around food. When you relocated to Hong Kong, you continued to work in restaurants. Was there another influence? Was there a chef or chefs that sort of helped define who you became as a cook as you grew up?
Going back to the question you have, you said that this is not really something that I really wanted to do in the beginning, growing up in China. But eventually, my life experience from Guangzhou, hungry, going to bed most of the time, going to Hong Kong, working in a restaurant, went to high school. And then it gave me a taste of, hey, if I have something to eat, I can sustain my health. I can work. As a young kid, you don't really, in China, unlike in the US, you can pick your dream. You can go to this school. You can go, in China, you can't. Everything is determined and decided by the officials. If you live in the East, you cannot move to the West, the western part of the city. If you live in the South, you cannot move to the North. So we grew up and live in America. We are so blessed to be American. That's why I always said it's a great country. So looking back, my career in the last 52 years in working with food, of that 42 years on television. The food is about, to me, food is about sharing. Food is give you instant gratification. You know, unlike a painter, you paint, okay? You paint, and then you may not be able to get your song out to the studio, out to the radio station and the DJ. But food, it's a chef. You cook, whether you cook at home, you cook in a restaurant, instantly gratification. When you see everybody licking the plate is nice and clean, you feel good, you know. So that's why reinforce my desire to be a chef at that point. And then, of course, during that college education, I was actually teach cooking class to just make ends meet, make enough money to go to school, to pay for tuition fee, and always worry about not having money to pay tuition fee, because foreign student would pay 3 times as much. So all of these episodes in life allow me to build my character and my determination to associate with food. So eventually I had a master's degree in food science. So it's basically, I'm one of the few chefs in the early days that as a chef and also involved and educated in food.
Education, I know that education has always been very, very important to you, and I appreciate that. Your story reminds me so much of, you know, my father is also an immigrant, came over from Germany in 1960. What you said about sharing food with others is what motivated him as well. I just love that story. Love that story. So one of the most famous catchphrases, right? If Yan can do it, so can you. I mean, brilliant. It's almost in a beautiful way, an open sort of invitation to anyone who might be interested in Chinese cuisine, sort of a genuine way of breaking down barriers, right? Because it could be intimidating if you don't know anything about the region or the type of products that are grown in that part of the country. So what is your motivation for sharing, or what became your motivation for sharing your passion for cooking Chinese cuisine, you know, for the greater population, and what keeps that passion alive for you today?
Well, when I first landed in this great country, and I tried to eat Chinese food, and you know that in the old days, looking back 40, 50 years ago, it's only about 3,000 or 4,000 Chinese restaurants scattered all over the place. And most of them are basically chop suey and chow mein restaurants, mom and pop shops. And then throughout the years, and I tried, sometimes I want to eat, I want to cook, and I can never find some restaurant that can offer things that my mother, my father can prepare in the restaurant. And I started to figure out, you see, we got to do something. Every time I want to get ingredient, I have to drive all the way to Chinatown, San Francisco, which is about 1.5 hours to 2 hours from UC Davis. Now I figure out maybe we can introduce cooking to people. So I start teaching cooking class, and people always ask me, they're always curious. Is Chinese food very complicated, very time consuming, very curious, very mysterious, because a lot of different kind of seasoning and produce and vegetable. And I said, you know, everything I cook, everything I teach you, you can do it at home. So if I can do it, you can do it. That's how it comes out. They come up with the Yan can cook, so can you slogan. Because I want to demystify. I don't want to discourage people. I want to encourage people to be able to do things that I enjoy myself. So nowadays, after 50 years, there are 55,000 Chinese restaurants all over the US. They're
Amazing.
more than all the chain restaurants combined. And the chain fast food restaurant combined, 52,000 restaurants. Another 16,000 Asian restaurants. It's amazing. It's become a mainstream diet. And everybody, I guarantee, whether it's in Chicago, in Colorado, anywhere you go, there's always Chinese restaurant. And people, for sure, go to Chinese restaurant once in a while. And it become aside from Italian, aside from Mexican cuisine, Chinese restaurant is very, very popular. There are more Chinese restaurants than any Italian restaurant, including pizza restaurant. So because it's acceptance, and also you're eating something fresh, natural, because we always can't never overcook the vegetable. And meat is always used to flavor your vegetable. So the Chinese basically leading the plant-based diet for a long, long time. The Japanese, the Indian, the Chinese, they have a lot of vegetarian restaurants. Food is basically, when talk about eating, is about basically a vegetable diet. Not a plant-based vegan diet, but a plant-based diet. You eat a lot of vegetable.
But vegetable centric. I loved your comments about how your mother influenced you. So many great chefs share that same memory, right? You know, it's interesting, the growth of this particular ethnic cuisine. Historically, there's been some xenophobia, right, around ethnic foods, particularly, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So as a celebrity, what would you say is your role, and other celebrities like you that have public platforms, to make a difference? And has your role changed over the last 20 or 30 years?
Well, as a chef, we're lucky because food basically is the equalizer. We all have to eat. And food has no national boundary. If good food, whether it's Italian or Indian, Japanese, the Russian, Cajun, and Cantonese or Mandarin, as long as it tastes good, as long as it's good, it's good food. It's no national boundary. Food brings people together. Food is a bridge for all of us. When you sit around the time, that's the reason why you go to a typical Chinese restaurant. The table is always round, never long table. So this way, everybody can eat together and talk to each other and communicate. The table is something as a place that we share not only good food, but share our story, share our good life, share our philosophy. So that's the reason why round table. You always say round table conference, a round table meeting.
Yeah.
So you can talk to each other. Chinese do not like to sit in a long table like a wedding. You cannot talk to anybody. Round table.
I love that story. And you may not remember this, but this was years ago. Yeah. You took me we were in Chicago. We were in Chinatown in Chicago. Yeah. You took me to a favorite restaurant of yours. Yeah. We went into a back room behind a bunch of doors and all this. Yeah. And we went and sat at a round table. Yes. And several of your friends were around the table. And we experienced a lot of cuisine that I had never experienced before. And you made sure that I sat right next to you and gave me direction on what I should and should not try. What a great memory. I'd forgotten all about that. You know, I think you've sort of answered this, but whatever research you do, it suggests that Chinese food is the number one ethnic food, our food choice for people in North America. Was there
along with Italian and Mexican cuisine, very popular. These are the three probably most popular ethnic cuisine. But in terms of number of restaurants, by far there are more Chinese restaurants than other restaurants.
Is there anything that you believe has happened in the last 20 or 30 years that sort of shifted people's acceptance and specifically of Chinese cuisine, but we could talk about Italian and Mexican cuisine as well? What was it? You've touched on it a little bit, but was there anything more significant that allowed people to accept ethnic food? Was it just the sheer number of opportunities or variety?
Well, the two reasons. People curious. People always try something new. And this is what makes America great. We have imagination, we have curiosity, we always look for something new. And that's the reason why there's so many innovation in technology and a lot of things. And also in recent years, people tend to travel a lot more because of trade, international trade. A lot of people, every year I took people on culinary tour to Asia. We went to Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, Thailand, everywhere. So people were exposed to a lot of things that people have never tasted before, food people have never tasted before. All of a sudden they find out, wow, this is exciting. Now, all of a sudden, you know, that a lot of ramen, a lot of sushi. I remember when I first came over here, there's very few sushi restaurants. Now, sushi restaurant, ramen restaurant, Vietnamese noodle restaurant. They popping all over the place. Thai restaurant, Cambodian restaurant, Myanmar, you know, Burmese restaurant. They're all over. Just like Cajun restaurant, popularized by K. Paul and Amber.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So all of these people, all it takes a few people take the lead to introduce. Now, everywhere you turn around, any city with a couple thousand people, you'll find at least a couple of Chinese restaurants.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Chef, you've been creating what this current generation now calls content, right? For many, many years via television media, PBS. Your cooking show is still syndicated around the world, making it one of the longest running American cooking programs of all time. With the ability to bring the audience, I would say, to platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok today, right? How is your approach to cooking to make sure that you engage with this new audience changed over time?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when you get into a roadblock, when you get into the dead end, you have to learn to overcome, run back, and think what I can do. For almost 40 years, the Yankee Cook Show started in 1979. So it's been around for many, many years. In the beginning, it's just Julia Child's French chef, Graham Cass, Galloping Gourmet, and then the Yankee Cook Show. Years later, the Food Network and our good friend Jacques Japan and all those people. But we have the opportunity to really reach a lot of people, but on the big screen. Nowadays, during the pandemic, everybody got stuck. We cannot go out of the country. Every country is closed and quarantined. So we cannot film anymore. So we decided to get into social media, which I haven't done for years. So we do a lot of YouTube, a lot of Facebook, a lot of Instagram, and all kind of things. I haven't touched on TikTok yet because TikTok is too short. I want to have enough time to really show people how to cook. That's the reason why TikTok at this moment is not really my platform yet. Through that, in the old days when I do a live appearance, when you do a cooking class, I reach about 20 people, 50 people, maybe 200 or 300 people when I do live. But now with social media, you can reach millions of people. Absolutely. Recently, I did an event for the Asian Art Museum and San Francisco Public Library. 1,600 people sign up. There are people sign up from Ireland, from London, from Perth, Australia, and Auckland, New Zealand. Because they get all of these worldwide. Social media is global, is worldwide. And that means you are able to reach a lot more people in a shorter period of time. In 1 hour, you can reach. Recently, I did an event for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, the Staff Appreciation Day. In 8 hours, we did, in the evening, about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, we did Asia, the Asian region, which is about 3 billion people. Reach 3 billion people because they have factory and office all over Asia, in India, in China, in Japan, in Korea, and Taiwan, and Singapore. And then we move on to about 1 o'clock in the morning, we did European region. And then at 10 o'clock in the morning, we did the Americas, North and South America. Amazing. In 8 hours period, we reached 28,000 of their staff all over the world. And this is how powerful it is. In the past, we'll never be able to do it.
No.
We communicate with people. So I said, when there is crisis, there's always opportunity. You just have to learn to reinvent yourself, to create something that you probably have never dreamed of. So this is what we're doing. We can continue to create, continue to look at things, look at opportunity, and take advantage of opportunity. Instead of sitting there.
Go ahead, Chef. Go ahead.
Instead of sitting there and feel sorry for yourself,
yeah.
sorry for your profession, we just move on.
Just do it. Just do it. Right.
Do it.
And there,
just do it.
To that point, there are so many culinary influencers out there today. Do you have any specific advice to them about how to build their own brand so that they can have sustainability? I mean, you have been doing this for decades, and it always feels fresh, right? Yeah. Any advice for those who are just getting started?
Well, I'm fortunate. You know, throughout the years, I travel all over the world. Pre-pandemic, I actually travel about 250 days a year, worldwide, all of the U.S., all over. So that's why we do presentation with your student in the past in Chicago area, all over the place, and I travel all over the world. I'm working with home chef as well as top chef around the world. And I have the opportunity to work with the Gordon Ramsay and Emerald, and we appear on their show. And we do a lot of Iron Chef and Top Chef. And by doing that, I get a chance to expose and connect myself with all these top people, very creative mind. And they have a lot of imagination. And the reason why they're successful, because they love what they do. And they are passionate what they do. That's the reason why these people never give up. If they close the restaurant, they try to open another one somewhere else. Yeah. Nobody would touch everything and turn to gold, except the owner of Tesla.
yeah.
But most of us, sometimes we've gotten to a stumbling block, and we got to reflect. The key is, I think, to make sure whatever you do is new, to create curiosity and also build a brand. Yan Can Cook, So Can You is a brand. Yan Can Cook is a brand, international brand. When I go to Asia, when I say Yan Can Cook, everybody say, so can I, or so can you. Become a brand. So I think it's important for the influencer to do something new. Don't draw on the same thing. Do the same thing. If you do the same thing over and over again, people get tired.
Absolutely.
They don't necessarily get fed up, but they get tired. So you got to be fresh. You got to create something to captivate their attention, create something that attract their curiosity. And that's the reason why we do not just Chinese food. I travel to Thailand. I travel to Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Taiwan, Korea. I just did a show called Chef Yan Live, Korean Life, Korean Food Life. So we travel all the way from North Korea to Jeju Island. I'm working with all the top chefs. I don't even know how to speak Korean. So I work with the local chef that a lot of them are actually, probably some of them are your students before. And they accompany me. We travel. So we travel all over the place, work with home cooks. We cook in somebody's house, in a village, in a farm, and we work with top chef. So continue to create something new content, build your brand. And I always use a slogan so people can remember my show. When I first talk about, I say, Yan can cook for you. Towards the end, I always say, if Yan can cook, so can you. Very important to have that. You remember Johnny Carson have a trademark. Towards the end, he always go swing the golf club.
Swing the golf club.
Right?
Yeah.
Very important to create something people remember you.
Absolutely.
They may not remember your name, but they remember what you said and what you do, and also what you mentioned towards the end. So it's very important. The beginning, you gotta make sure that you attract and captivate the audience, the attention in the first 15, 20 seconds, and let them stay on with you. In most of my live presentation, people don't leave, they just stay around.
Oh yeah, they're captivated. That's great advice. And no one forgets Yan can cook. So when you were 33, you became one of the first people of Asian descent to host a cooking show in the United States. And like we said earlier, you filmed more than 1,500 episodes. It's amazing. So for those that can't measure how many shows that it's been, you've you film more episodes than how significant is that achievement for you? I mean, it's more episodes than Friends combined over a decade, right? How
Well,
significant?
let's make a little update and correction. The 1,500 cooking show information was in a Google somewhere or Yahoo. Is outdated. So far up to today, I have done over 3,500 episodes.
So double what we're talking about.
The reason is because a lot of times, besides the Yankee Cook show that I did in the US, I also do shows in Thailand, in Malaysia, in Vietnam, in China, in Taiwan, in Singapore. I did shows in Singapore for 10 years, in English program as well as Chinese program. For 10 years, I've done several hundred cooking shows just in Singapore alone. Okay, and then also throughout the year, the amazing thing is I always come out with something refreshed because when you travel, you learn. You never stop learning. Always keep a sense of curiosity. So to me, it's about sharing with people, and I have never get tired by sharing. If I say I'm cooking a dish, if I have something more, I'll take it to my neighbor. I always take it to my neighbor. Okay, this is about sharing. Sharing is important.
After all these years, if there was one thing that you might do differently back when you were 33, what would that be? Or would you not change a thing?
Yeah, well, actually, also another thing is I was the first Asian American to actually host a daily food and travel show. Before that, Julia Child and Graham Kerr and even a couple other people have done some show, but it's not a daily. When we do the show, we used to do 130 shows in 25 days and in a month.
Amazing.
And then air every day for 6 months. They repeat for another 6 months. So that's how we build the thing. But I think the thing is, if I have some thoughts to share with our young friends, the most important thing is follow your instinct. Make sure you love what you do, whether you are an artist. Cooking is an art. You're artists. We're magicians. We turn something very simple into something spectacular, something nourishing,
absolutely,
something healthy. So I think it's important that you ask yourself, you love food, you love what you do, not because you see, oh, Chef Kurt Bauman, Chef Martin Yan, or Bobby Frey, or Emerald, they're celebrity. We are in a business, you ask any of the celebrity chef, they set out to be a chef. They love what they do. They continue to do it. Just like Jack Nicholson, just like Tiger Woods. They make too much money. They make more money than they ever can spend, but they still do it because you know what? They love the golf course. They love the game of golf. You got to have that kind of sense of passion to do it. Passion started with not only something that you love. If you don't like something, you don't like the job, you don't like your work, you can't have passion. So without feeling that you love what you do, you don't have curiosity. You don't want to learn.
And that's the fuel. It's a great message for students, right? There's got to be that passion for the career, 100%. Yeah, you mentioned some celebrity chefs' names. You've had so many guests over the years. Yeah. Is there one specific incident that you can share with us? One really, really remarkable episode with one of these guest chefs that you can share a little story behind the scenes with us?
We work with a lot of guest chefs. Eventually, they're all on television.
Yeah.
We work with Ming Tsai, we work with Jacques. I remember I worked with Emerald and a lot of other whole string other chefs, including my good friend Roy Yamaguchi of Roy's restaurant.
Yeah.
And one time I still remember, I was challenging Jacques to bone a chicken. He loved to use the 6-inch knife, right? And I used the big knife.
The big cleaver. Let's do it.
We're done. And then I was so amazed that as a chef with the skill, it doesn't matter what tool you use. You can do it just as fast, just as well. And we end up almost 1-1.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah. And it's very fast. I thought that I would be faster, but it turned out to be very, very close. So I was so impressed.
That's impressive.
Just like any skill, I always tell people, as a chef, as a professional, it's not just reading the recipe, but do it.
Yeah. And Jacques is still cooking. He's still cooking. And it's just from his Jacques Pepin's foundation. I just contribute a cooking video, a couple of videos, so you can share with all the young chef and up and coming chef. And I am building in fact, UC Davis, the UC Davis Library in the Food Science Department is creating a Chef Martin Yan's culinary archive. Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Basically focus on Asian cuisine.
Yeah.
So if anybody eventually want to learn and find out more about Asian cooking, not only Chinese, but Asian cooking, I donated about 3,000 or 4,000 cookbooks. And I'm going to encourage all my friends to donate Asian cookbook to the archive.
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
All of us continue to try to share our passion and what
to give back.
To give it back.
Yeah.
Because Jacques is very nurturing to young chef. Julia, my good friend Julia, also very nurturing to a young chef. So, and I know Roy trained a lot of chefs, and I travel around the world. And I do a lot of culinary school presentation and forum and commencement speech, remember? So we do a lot of those because I try to inspire young people. I try to share my passion, tell them that passion comes from first confidence, optimism, courage, never give up. For most people, never make it is because they give up in the middle of the road. Never give up. That's the key to success.
That's great advice. So we're hopefully coming out of this pandemic. Anything you can share in terms of how you had to pivot, change your business approach over the last couple of years, which was just very, very difficult for a lot of restaurateurs? Anything specific that you had to do differently?
I remember, I always tell people, life is just like the wave in the ocean. Up and down, come in and out. Nothing is ever secure. People grow older and you change your style. You got to, as long as you believe in yourself, as long as you're confident, you can always find ways to survive. The survival instinct. If you do not have crisis, you do not know how to survive. So sometimes you fail, you fall down. You know what? You get up and move on. And that's the key. So my advice to most of our young friend is trust yourself, trust your instinct, believe in yourself. And then if something happens, don't get discouraged, just move on. And look at a lot of my chef friends. They start the cloud kitchen. They do take out, they create wonderful things. And I just met a good chef. He was in the Top Chef, and I was one of the judge and the Iron Chef and the Top Chef and the Master Chef. And then he closed his restaurant during the pandemic, but he start take out. And he just get a really small community kitchen and round up a few of his friends. And it's lining up. I was just in Hawaii. His restaurant is not open. It's no indoor dining. But people are lining up As long as people get out the plane, they go to his place because he's doing something very, very fun, very, very affordable, and it's absolutely delicious. So reinvent yourself. Always reinvent yourself.
Yeah, great advice. Well, Chef, we're coming to the end of our time together. But before I let you go, the name of the podcast is The Ultimate Dish. So for you and your family, what is the ultimate dish?
Ultimate dish is always comfort food. When you grew up eating what your mother, your grandmother prepared, this is always your favorite. When I was growing up, my mother always makes a one-pot meal, the clay pot. And I still do it for my family and myself. I have a little clay pot, and then I soak the rice, I clean the rice and soak the rice. When the rice is almost ready, about 20 minutes, uncover, and I'll put some chicken, a mushroom, and cilantro, and green onion, and a sprinkle, and I put a tiny bit of soy sauce, and finish cooking. By the time it's finished, I have one dish meal. You got starch, which is rice. You got chicken, which is protein. You got vegetable. You got a couple of bok choy. So when the rice is finished, the chicken is perfectly done. It's not overcooked because the rice is almost cooked before I put the chicken and the shiitake mushroom and the bok choy. So when the rice is done, everything is done. One pot meal. All I have to do is just wash the clay pot. And I still enjoy doing that. So that's my ultimate dish.
I love it. So beautifully said. Chef, I'm so honored. Thank you for taking the time. You look phenomenal. It was great spending some time with you. I hope we can do it again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I wish you and the rising star young chef continued success. Remember, love what you do. You don't have to work a day of your life. Be passionate. Never give up.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast, where you'll find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. You can also browse other episodes and subscribe.